Welcome to my bold and beautiful today's show channel. I hope today fantastic for everyone. Please hit the subscribes button and give this video thumbs up. Taylor's heart shatters as Brooke and Ridge reunite on Runway. Taylor left shattered as Brooke reclaims Ridge during fashion extravaganza. The fashion show finale turned into a show-stopping heartbreak when Brooke Logan emerged from a locked dressing room just in time to captivate Ridge Forrester on the runway, leaving Taylor Hayes to watch her hopes crumble from the shadows. The moment that changed everything. The highlight of the Forrester fashion show turned into a relationship game-changer just when we thought it couldn't get any more dramatic. Brooke barely made it out in time to walk the runway in Eric Forrester's stunning white gown after being accidentally locked in a dressing room with her rival Taylor. What then? Pure soap magic unfolded. When Brooke stepped onto that catwalk, Ridge's face said everything. The man couldn't stop thinking about it. As she locked eyes with him, you could practically see flashbacks of their romantic Portofino days playing in his mind. I haven't seen chemistry this electric since, well, the last time these two reconnected. On the runway, when Ridge took Brooke's hand, that mute gesture said a lot. The crowd might have been applauding the fashion, but what they were really witnessing was the magnetic pull between these two that never seems to die. The view from Taylor's front row of Heartbreak, poor Taylor. She had to watch from the shadows as her rival stole the spotlight and her man's attention after escaping the locked dressing room drama with Brooke, where tensions were already sky-high. What's that look on her face? Pure devastation. Let's face it, this was more than just a fashion show. Taylor was witnessing years of hope crushed in a single catwalk moment at this point. Taylor had to see for herself, standing next to Steffi Forrester, who appeared just as distraught, how quickly Brooke can get Ridge's attention with just one thoughtful glance. Can we discuss the irony? Taylor got a front row seat to exactly what she feared most, the undeniable connection between Brooke and Ridge that never seems to go unnoticed for long after all the warnings Taylor had given Ridge about Brooke over the years. Backstage drama sets the stage. The backstage drama that preceded the explosive runway moment was just as intense. Brooke and Taylor getting trapped together in a dressing room? That is the best soap opera drama you can ever write. When Brooke frantically pounded on the door, screaming that she needed to get out before it was too late, Taylor actually had the nerve to question Brooke's importance to the show. Seriously? After all these years, she still underestimates the Logan power. When Brooke smugly reminded Taylor that Ridge still calls her his Logan, Taylor snapped that she never wanted to hear that nickname again, and the heated argument that ensued between these rivals was everything. Decades into this rivalry and the claws are still razor-sharp. Even though Katie Logan, Will Spencer, and Elektra Forrester saved the day, I can't help but wonder if Taylor secretly wished that door would have remained locked for a little while longer. What happens next? Even though the fashion show is over, the real action is just beginning. Based on next week's previews, Brooke is doubling down on her belief that Ridge is her destiny, while Eric is telling his son that Brooke is where you belong. Meanwhile, Ridge seems torn, insisting he's committed to someone else. But after that electrifying catwalk moment, I'm not so sure his commitment is as strong as he claims. Will Taylor finally accept that she's fighting a losing battle? Will Steffi confront Brooke once more in order to protect her mother? What about Hope Logan, who seems to be with her mother as she tries to get Ridge back? It is abundantly clear that this triangular tug-of-war is far from over, and hearts will continue to break until someone gives up the fight. Taylor is betrayed by Eric's covert plan to reunite Ridge with Brooke. Eric Forrester teams up with Donna and Brooke to break Ridge and Taylor up, despite Taylor's fragile health. Ridge declares his love for Taylor, but will Eric's sway prevail? Ridge and Taylor's communities will be destroyed by Patriarch. The family patriarch has declared war on his own son's happiness, and the fallout could be devastating for everyone involved. Eric Forrester has officially crossed a line that even longtime viewers never saw coming. The patriarch of the Forrester family is not only privately disapproving of Ridge and Taylor's relationship, but he is also actively plotting against it with Donna and Brooke. Even if it means crushing Taylor's newly healed heart, this three-person wrecking crew is determined to reunite Ridge at any cost. Eric's manipulative master plan exposed. What makes this situation particularly disturbing is the calculated nature of Eric's interference. Sources close to the show reveal that the patriarch has been methodically recreating nostalgic bridge moments, showing rich videos of past romantic encounters with Brooke, and strategically arranging situations where the former couple can reconnect. And let's not forget Eric is fully aware of Taylor's recent struggle with broken heart syndrome. After her medical crisis and remarkable recovery, you'd think Eric would show some compassion. Instead, he is willing to put her happiness and health at risk for his son's sake. Eric knows exactly what he's doing, says one insider. He's been a bridge supporter from day one and sees Taylor as a temporary obstacle rather than a woman who's been through hell and back. Ridge stands firm, but for how long? To his credit, Ridge has so far remained committed to Taylor despite his father's manipulations. When confronted directly about Eric's wishes, Ridge firmly stated that he's chosen Taylor and intends to honor that commitment. But soap fans know better than anyone how easily Ridge Forrester's heart can be swayed. With Eric, Donna, and Brooke all working against him, will he eventually cave to the pressure? History suggests it's only a matter of time before the designer finds himself confused about his feelings once again. Steffi and Thomas will be furious. There will be retribution when Steffi and Thomas learn what their grandfather is doing. Eric's betrayal isn't just about Taylor, it's a slap in the face to her children as well. Steffi has always been fiercely protective of her mother, and if she finds out that Eric is actively attempting to end their relationship, her relationship with her grandfather will probably suffer as a result. As for Thomas, he's just recently gotten back into everyone's good graces, but family loyalty runs deep, and he won't stand for anyone hurting his mother. Taylor's health hangs in the balance. The potential implications for Taylor's well-being are the aspect of this scheme that is most concerning. Her broken heart syndrome diagnosis wasn't just for dramatic effect, it's a real condition that can be life-threatening under extreme stress. If Ridge does eventually succumb to Eric's manipulation and returns to Brooke, the emotional devastation could send Taylor into a dangerous relapse. Is Eric really willing to put his former daughter-in-law's life at risk just to see his son with Brooke? The Forrester family is certain to get into a heated argument that could permanently damage relationships for generations to come. When the truth about Eric's meddling finally comes to light, no one will be left unscathed. Will Ridge discover his father's betrayal before it's too late? And if he does, will he choose loyalty to Taylor or give in to the pressure to reunite with Brooke? The drama is just beginning, soap fans. Ridge rejects Eric's plea, Brooke and Taylor's fates, hope reluctant. Eric Forrester will push Ridge Forrester to do a 180. Ridge, on the other hand, insists that he is already committed to Taylor Hayes. Meanwhile, Brooke Logan confides in Hope Logan. Keep reading and let's talk about what is coming up in the next episode of the CBS soap opera. Eric Forrester's plan. Fans watched as Eric and Donna Logan schemed with Brooke. Eric is convinced that Bridge belongs together. The patriarch has always been a huge Bridge supporter. Eric doesn't think badly of Taylor, but just has always felt Brooke was the right woman for Ridge. Eric still feels this way, despite all of their difficulties and complications over the years. Find out what transpired on the most recent B&B episode. Ridge began to criticize Eric for his scheme when Brooke vanished from the fashion show. The plan seemed to work after Brooke showed up. Ridge grabbed Brooke's hand while she was wearing a wedding dress in front of the audience. The audience applauded as they held hands on the runway, giving the impression that they belonged together. However, this could have just been for the crowd's sake. If it ended in heartbreak, the show wouldn't be as good. Ridge is already committed to someone else at the same time. As many characters like to refer to the relationship, Eric is not respecting it. Must read, The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, 5 compelling reasons Liam could be killed off. The rejection of Ridge Forrester. Despite Eric's urging, Ridge will tell his father that he is not going back to Brooke. Ridge makes it abundantly clear that he will remain with Taylor due to his commitment to Taylor. Although Eric may disagree, he ought to know better than to push too hard. The reluctant support of Hope Logan. According to The Bold and the Beautiful, Brooke will talk to her daughter at home. Hope Logan will also be important to Brooke. Brooke knows the vile names that Ridge called the young designer. However, Brooke still wants to get Ridge back. Hope's lips pucker up like a lemon when she finds out. Hope, on the other hand, tells her mother to go for it if that's what she wants. The fear of Taylor Hayes. She will likely open up to Steffy Forrester Finnegan in comparison to Taylor. Steffy and Taylor both watched as Bridge walked the runway together while the crowd cheered. Taylor appeared heartbroken and bereft. Steffy, on the other hand, will probably encourage her mother not to give up because she hasn't yet lost Ridge to Brooke. The Forrester fashion show, meant to be a celebration of art and beauty, instead became the stage for a heartbreak that shook Taylor Hayes to her very core, as the woman who has fought so valiantly for her place in Ridge Forrester's heart watched her dreams disintegrate before her very eyes when Brooke Logan, her eternal rival, reclaimed Ridge's attention and affection with nothing more than a dazzling entrance and a look that reignited decades of chemistry and memories. It all began in the most soaptastic of ways, with Taylor and Brooke trapped in a locked dressing room. The two women who have defined Ridge's life for generations finding themselves physically confined together as a metaphor for the emotional prison they've both endured for years, their heated exchange dripping with old resentments and raw vulnerability, Taylor questioning Brooke's importance to the show even as Brooke, pounding on the door in panic, reminded her with icy calm that she would always be his Logan, a dagger to Taylor's fragile heart that barely had time to heal after her recent health scare. The moment Katie Logan, Will Spencer, and Electra Forrester freed them, the wheels of destiny were already turning. But it was on that runway where the universe seemed to shift the moment Brooke, clad in Eric Forrester's magnificent white gown, stepped onto the catwalk. All the air was sucked out of the room as Ridge, standing like a lost man rediscovering the love of his life, was visibly shaken, his face an open book of longing, nostalgia, and unspoken dreams, and as the spotlight bathed Brooke in ethereal light, their eyes locked and time seemed to rewind, flashing through stolen kisses in Portofino, whispered promises in Beverly Hills, and decades of a love that neither betrayal nor time could completely erase. When Ridge reached out and took Brooke's hand on that runway, it was not just a gesture of support or showmanship, it was a soul-deep surrender to the pull they could never escape, and though the audience applauded the fashion, everyone knew the real spectacle was the reawakening of Bridge, a love story that refuses to stay buried, while Taylor, standing beside her daughter Steffy Forrester, experienced the most public and humiliating heartbreak of her life, her face contorting with devastation as she realized that no matter how hard she fought, no matter how much she believed in her and Ridge's recent commitment, Brooke's presence could undo it all with just one look, one smile, one moment. The irony was unbearable. After years of warning Ridge that Brooke would always be his Achilles heel, Taylor was now the witness to her own worst fear unfolding, and even Steffy, fierce and protective, could not hide her heartbreak at seeing her mother so utterly shattered. Meanwhile, behind the glittering chaos, the seeds of betrayal had already been sown by none other than Eric Forrester, who, under the guise of patriarchal wisdom, had decided to play puppet master with his family's lives, orchestrating a campaign to destroy Ridge and Taylor's relationship and reunite Bridge, his plan disturbingly methodical and cold, involving nostalgic videos, strategic reminders of past passion, and intentional engineering of intimate moments between Ridge and Brooke, all while knowing full well that Taylor's recent brush with death, her terrifying battle with broken heart syndrome, had left her more vulnerable than ever, a woman whose heart, both literal and metaphorical, could only withstand so much. Eric's betrayal, compounded by Donna Logan's eager involvement and Brooke's relentless pursuit, was a cruel chess game played at the cost of Taylor's fragile happiness. And even though Ridge, in moments of clarity, reaffirmed his commitment to Taylor, standing firm against his father's manipulations and declaring that he would honor the woman who had stood by him, the reality was that Ridge's heart had always been a battlefield of divided loyalties, and the raw, unfiltered passion that erupted on the runway could not be ignored no matter how loudly he professed his devotion to Taylor. Yet Eric, convinced that he was doing the right thing, continued to push his campaign of sabotage cloaked in the belief that he was restoring destiny, completely disregarding the very real possibility that Taylor's heart, both emotionally and physically, could not survive another crushing loss. As the news spread through the Forrester family, it was clear that the fallout would be nuclear. Steffy Forrester, fierce protector of her mother's happiness, would not sit idly by as her grandfather waged war against Taylor's hard-won peace, and Thomas Forrester, despite his own sins and redemption arc, would undoubtedly view Eric's actions as the ultimate betrayal, another instance of the Forresters choosing Brooke at the expense of Taylor, a pattern that had haunted their family for decades. As Taylor, fighting back tears, leaned on Steffy for support, She voiced her deepest fear that no matter how much Ridge promised her forever, she could never truly compete with the gravitational pull that Brooke held over him, a fear that Steffi, though supportive, could not fully dispel because the evidence had played out before their eyes, undeniable and raw. Meanwhile, Brooke, emboldened by the Runway moment, confided in Hope Logan, revealing her plans to reclaim Ridge once and for all, and though Hope, weary and skeptical after years of watching her mother's endless war with Taylor, hesitated, she ultimately gave her reluctant blessing, grimacing through the sour taste of inevitable heartbreak yet again, knowing that nothing and no one could dissuade Brooke once she had set her sights on Ridge, and even as Ridge, torn and tormented, told Eric he would not be manipulated, that he was committed to Taylor and that his future was with the woman who had stood by him through the chaos of his life. The doubt lingered because history had taught everyone that Ridge Forrester's heart was as mercurial as the winds over the Pacific, and one moment of weakness, one flicker of old passion, could undo years of promises. The most terrifying part, however, was the specter of Taylor's health hanging over it all, because a second bout of broken heart syndrome could be fatal, and if Ridge faltered, if he allowed Brooke's relentless pursuit and Eric's manipulations to sway him, Taylor might not just lose the man she loved, she might lose her life. A chilling possibility that no one seemed to be taking seriously enough in the glitz and drama of the fashion world. And so, as the Forrester family barreled toward an inevitable, catastrophic confrontation, Eric believing he was restoring order, Brooke believing she was reclaiming her destiny, Ridge caught between guilt and desire, Steffi and Thomas poised to wage war for their mother's dignity, and Taylor standing on the precipice of emotional and physical ruin. The future remained heartbreakingly uncertain. A future where alliances would shatter, family bonds would be tested to their breaking point, and hearts both old and new would be broken beyond repair, because in the world of the bold and the beautiful, love is never simple, betrayal is never clean, and destiny always demands a brutal price. The bold and the beautiful has always thrived on love triangles, betrayals, and high stakes fashion drama. But the latest Forrester Creations runway show delivered a moment so seismic that it may have rewritten the future of Brooke Logan, Ridge Forrester, and Taylor Hayes forever. In a twist that blended soap opera perfection with raw emotional devastation, Brooke emerged from a locked dressing room just in time to steal the spotlight, and Ridge's heart, leaving Taylor to watch helplessly as her dreams of reconciliation crumbled before her eyes. This wasn't just another fashion show, it was a battlefield where love, destiny, and rivalries that had been going on for decades met spectacularly. Taylor's heart was shattered by the runway moment. The Forrester fashion extravaganza's climax ought to have been a celebration of Eric's stunning designs. Instead, it became the stage for a love story revival that no one, Taylor included, anticipated. As the show's grand finale approached, Brooke, clad in a breathtaking white gown designed by Eric himself, stepped onto the runway with an aura of confidence and longing. The air was filled with unspoken history as soon as her eyes met Ridge's. Ridge, who had spent months insisting his future was with Taylor, looked utterly transfixed, as if every memory of their passionate past had come rushing back in an instant. Even though the crowd was cheering for the fashion, what they were really seeing was Brooke and Ridge's undeniable, magnetic pull, a connection that has stood the test of time, logic, and multiple marriages. When Ridge reached for Brooke's hand, the silent gesture spoke louder than any declaration of love. His fingers lingering against hers, his gaze filled with unspoken yearning, it was a moment so charged that even Steffi, watching from the sidelines, looked stricken. The sight was beyond soul-crushing for Taylor, who had been with Steffi standing in the shadows. Taylor's front row seat to Heartbreak. Taylor Hayes, a brilliant psychiatrist who has always taken great pride in her ability to comprehend human emotions, was forced to face the one truth she had spent years trying to avoid. Brooke Logan will always have a hold on Ridge's heart, no matter how much Ridge loves her. Taylor's face was visceral with devastation. Her lips trembled, her eyes sparkled with unspoken tears, and her body stiffened as she tried to keep her composure. This wasn't just a setback. It was a brutal reminder that, despite all her efforts, she could never fully erase Brooke from Ridge's soul. The irony was almost cruel. Taylor had spent years warning Ridge about Brooke's influence, insisting that their toxic cycle would only bring him pain. Yet here she was, forced to watch as Brooke, with nothing more than a glance and a touch, unraveled everything Taylor had fought to rebuild. Even Steffi, usually a fierce defender of her mother's relationship with Ridge, looked shaken, as if she too recognized the inevitable. As Brooke, radiant and victorious, reclaimed her place in Ridge's life, the runway had become a metaphor for Taylor's worst fears. Taylor was left in the darkness, powerless to stop it. The backstage battle that set the stage for disaster. If the runway moment was the explosion, the backstage drama was the fuse that lit it. The tension had been building long before the show began, but when Brooke and Taylor found themselves accidentally locked in a dressing room together, the hostility reached a boiling point. Brooke, desperate to escape in time for her runway walk, pounded on the door in a panic, while Taylor, cool, composed, and subtly smug, questioned whether Brooke's presence was even necessary. The verbal sparring that followed was classic bold and beautiful gold. Brooke, always the one to cause trouble, couldn't help but remind Taylor that Ridge still calls her his Logan, a nickname that clearly got under Taylor's skin. "I never want to hear that name again," was laced with years of resentment in Taylor's sharp response. Here were two women who had fought over the same man for decades, their rivalry as fierce as ever, trapped in a confined space with no witnesses. A fight was all that was missing, but considering how intensely they fought, it's a miracle no one got into a fight. Although the damage had already been done, it was a relief when Katie, Will, and Elektra showed up to rescue them. In addition to demonstrating that she still possessed power over Ridge, Brooke's determination to arrive on time for the runway was motivated by professional pride. Taylor, as well? She may have escaped the locked room, but she immediately fell prey to a much more perilous trap, the fact that Brooke and Ridge share an unbreakable bond. What will occur next? The fallout of a fashion show for the ages. The real drama just got started after the fashion show was over. As Brooke reaffirms her belief that Ridge is her destiny, the previews for next week indicate that there will be violent confrontations. Eric, ever the Brooke supporter, reinforces this, telling Ridge outright that Brooke is where you belong. But Ridge, ever the waffler, insists he's committed to someone else, a claim that rings hollow after the way he looked at Brooke on that runway. The question now is, can Taylor recover from this? This very public humiliation may finally cause her to break down after years of playing second fiddle and watching Ridge yo-yo between her and Brooke. Will she stay away for good, or will she fight harder than ever and dig in her heels? And what about Steffi, who has always been Team Taylor? Will she intervene, or will she also acknowledge the possibility that Brooke will never truly be removed from Ridge's heart?